of this bill.
Andrew Williams.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. I rise to take a call on behalf of New Zealand First on the Customs and Excise Tobacco Products Budget Measures Amendment Bill, and we spoke on this bill yesterday and it's back in the House again today. And some of you will recall that yesterday I expressed our concerns on behalf of New Zealand First that this would not be simply a tax take, and as we've heard, $528 million over 4 years is a huge amount of money, over $500 million going into government coffers, and we certainly are hopeful and expect that it will be the case that significant amount of this, the funding that comes out of this, will go into the required health measures to actually help with the reduction in smoking in our country. Mr Chairman, while I was sitting in for the Right Honourable Winston Peters on the Finance Committee on a few of the days there, we did actually flesh out some of the unknown factors in all this, and one of the ones that somewhat surprised me is that this always does refer to New Zealand becoming smoke-free by 2025, and so there is the sort of the feeling out there that there'll be no more smoking in another 12 or so years, when in actual fact the definition of smoke-free from the officials was that by that stage it would mean that currently where there's something like 16% of New Zealanders smoke, it would be slashed by about a third down to something like 5 or 6% of New Zealanders would smoke, which would still leave 50 or 60,000 people in this country smoking. So it can't really be called smoke-free, because even at 2025 there will be still 50,000 plus people who are defined as being smokers in this country. And so in that situation, that is perhaps a little bit more levelling in terms of what the true situation is. But also, Mr Chairman, we do have a situation with foreign tourists. And of course, New Zealand is promoting itself heavily in markets like China, Taiwan, Japan, Korea, all through the Asian countries, and that is a potentially huge growth market for our tourism to New Zealand. And of course, they do have a high percentage of smokers coming from many of those Asian countries. So again, New Zealand will always have a situation where we cannot become 100% smoke-free, because if we're going to expect to have several million tourists a year coming to this country, and a significant chunk of those coming out of many of those countries where there is still a reasonably high level of smoking, then that will be the case. Because if we were to turn it off flatly, simply many of those tourists wouldn't bother coming to New Zealand, and that would be a huge problem. So I think we have to just be a little bit. We have to be a little bit realistic here, Mr Chairman, that it's an admirable aim, but what we're basically saying is we're trying to cut the rate of smoking of domestic residents in this country, of New Zealanders in this country, by about a third, from 15 or 16% down to about 5%. And at that point in time, that would significantly reduce by more than 100,000 people the amount of people that are smoking. And in that respect, I would certainly hope that those 100,000 people, if you multiply those people out across the health system and the effects of smoking, and with the chairman of the Health Committee here, Dr Hutchinson, I know this is a subject dear to his heart, but if those 100,000 people over the next decade and the next 12 years, if that can be significantly reduced in terms of the effects on their health and the reduction in what happens in terms of their health, and the extension of their lives and increasing their life expectancy, then that certainly is a good thing. So I certainly hope, and it did sort of worry me a little bit too, that this was only being seen by the Finance Committee, and it seemed to be only being seen in terms of dollars. But I certainly hope that Dr Hutchinson and the Health Committee will take it on board, and actually I hope that his committee monitors this. And I've known Dr Hutchinson for many, many years, because he was a doctor in Mairangi Bay, and I used to go to his practice, and I know how he is committed to good health. And so I certainly hope, Dr Hutchinson, that you will follow this through and that the increased funding that come out of these taxes year on year, 10% year on year, that you are fighting with your Minister of Finance, Bill English, and fighting for an allocation for increased funding for the necessary health projects to reduce spending. Thank you, Mr Speaker.
Mr Speaker.
Honourable Marianne Street.
Thank you very much, Mr Chairman.